All right, BradCooney.com would like to welcome to the show from NBC's The Voice Season 20, Cam Anthony. What is up, Cam?
Yo, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
I'm feeling really, really good to be here, you know. It's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot's changed. You know what's interesting? Before I even talk about The Voice, when I saw your blind audition, of course, I was blown away like everybody else was. But what's really, really cool when I watched the little production before you did the blind, the opportunity you had to sing for former President Obama and Michelle Obama.
Yes, sir.
Can we talk just a little bit about that before we get into your blind audition and kind of paint a picture for my listeners how that all came about?
For sure. So I started singing when I was about, or professionally when I was about 11 and 12 years old. And I started putting up videos on YouTube. And I started to get a lot of traction over, a few months. And one of my videos had gone viral, which landed me on the Ellen Show and a few other places. Mm-hmm. But it also caught wind of the First Lady, Michelle Obama. And so she sent me sent my mother an email and a letter to the house to basically invite us to the Easter egg roll in 2014. And so they invited me to come sing the national anthem. And literally, that was one of the most breathtaking experiences of my life. Because, of course, for a young black kid like me, or black boy specifically, to meet the first African-American president of the United States was extremely, it was extremely important. That kind of representation just, was enough to tell me that I could, go and do anything that I wanted to as long as I was, doing the work to make sure that happened. So, that entire moment just kind of summed up the work that I had been doing for the last few years or a few months up until that point. And then when I stepped out onto the podium, I remember forgetting what I was there to do. And so the president had to kind of like give me a nudge to walk up onto the podium and grab the mic. And I fumbled for a little bit, and then I began singing, and I just, it was like it seemed like you could hear a pin drop. It was just so... It was like, caught in time, caught in a moment. And I definitely was just able to really take in everything that had happened and just, sit in that for a little bit.
No pressure, right? No pressure at all. This is the President of the United States standing right next to you, the First Lady.
What was dope about it is, like, he made it very, very, very cool. He was extremely personable. He even sat down for a little bit to just talk to me about, just working for your dreams and actually putting in some work to make things happen. So I think I appreciated the entire experience as a whole.
Are you kidding me? That must have been amazing. Now let me ask one more thing about that. When your mom got the email, did she think it was legit at first, or was she ever? What? I mean, because if it ever happened to me, I would be like, all right, this has to be a scam. This can't be really from the First Lady.
Right. I mean, I think she probably did. She probably just was like, this isn't going to work. I'll probably ignore this. Once we got the message, the letter in the mail, that's when everything was like, for sure, like, oh, this is it. Because, it was signed, it had the seal and everything. So we definitely knew that it was definitely going down, and we had to prepare for it.
Wow. And I'm guessing that helped prepare you for the blind audition, which we will touch on in just a second. So let's tell the listeners how it all happened that you ended up on The Voice.
So I was actually just in my apartment like everyone else was during the quarantine, and I had been signed to a label for 7 years, so I was pretty what is the word? I guess I was complacent with the entire thing. I was just very chill, just sitting, and so I really just needed a left turn, and so those were the exact words I used with my manager. I said, I need a left turn. This isn't going where I wanted to go or where I needed to go. And so we decided that I was, going to walk away from my label at that point. And that same night, I got the email from The Voice, talking about the blind audition. So I was like, this is my opportunity to, kind of rewrite the stars, per se, and like start this entire thing over and do it how I want to do it. So
that was just like coincidental that you decided to take a different path away from the label, and then all of a sudden The Voice shows up in the email?
I think sometimes it's just about when we decide to actually release, because there was a hold that I had on that.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I kind of felt like if I walked away from something like that, nothing better would come. And I think that I'm a believer, at least, in the fact that if you put something out there and you've been working so hard towards something, it's going to come back around for sure.
Yeah.
And I just had to get out of my own way and just let it happen.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a great opportunity. And obviously, you've been reintroduced. I mean, because for those who remembered you in 2014 at the Easter egg roll, you sure reignited everything when you showed up on national TV on The Voice of the Blind. So you sang Sam Smith's "Lay Me Down." It's one of my favorite songs, and Sam Smith's actually one of my favorite singers. And of course, you had a lot of different songs you could have sang. So tell me about that song in particular. What was it about that song that made you want to sing that for the blind audition?
Well, I think in particular, for myself personally, this song was it had a lot of meaning, tied to family members that I had lost, in particular my uncle. I lost him in 2018, and I wasn't necessarily able to be with him as much as I wanted to. And when even when my episode aired for Showtime at the Apollo, actually, he was not able to watch it with me.
Aww.
And I had no idea that he was even trying to get to where we were. So I think that entire thing just, it can weigh on you for a little bit. So I wanted to kind of pay tribute to him, but also just to send out some love to people who lost someone during the pandemic. I apologize for that. People who lost someone during the pandemic, because, this song really just talks about wanting to be there for someone as much as you can, with all of your being, and just to make sure that they're all right, because, you want to take care of them. So I think the song spoke to, a lot of what people were going through right now at the moment. So.
Yeah, man. So what about your singing? When did you know, hey, I'm pretty good at this? I mean, I want to pursue this for a career.
I think I didn't necessarily understand what I was doing until, quite honestly, until around the White House. I think.
Oh, wow.
Given that I was going to church for a while, I understood that there was an impact that came with it, and singing in church, you see that it affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways. You make people cry. You make people, just snap out sometimes. And I didn't notice how important that was until I started to get people to reach out online, and they were telling me how sometimes I apparently stopped people from, harming themselves or in a lot of different situations. And I think that just inspired me and just gave me that second, kind of a little thought went off in my head, oh, this could really do something for a lot of people. I could be the same thing that, say Bruno Mars or Michael Jackson was to me when I was younger. And so I think that was the one thing that just really set me off.
I love that. That's being very selfless, and that's a measurement of your character, and you should be proud of that. That's really good that you're in that mindset. You put others first before even thinking about, how much money can I make in this field? You're all about what your music can do for therapy for people and change people.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, brother. All right, so Nick Jonas, John Legend, and Blake all turned for you. When you were singing, I've always wanted to ask this question. So when you're doing the blind audition and you're up there singing, it's a huge moment in your life. Can you actually hear the chairs turning, or are you so focused and dialed in that you didn't really notice who it was until the song was over with?
Well, I think when I was singing, from my personal experience, I didn't necessarily I was there. Usually for my performances, I feel like I kind of could take a back seat to Cam Anthony. I think recently, as I've grown older as well, and I like to practice now staying in the moment more than anything. I've just learned to just be able to sit through the process. So now I'm just kind of watching through my own eyes, and I was able to see who turned around at what times and stuff like that. But I don't think it registered till the very end, what had happened. I saw John was blocked, which kind of was ooh, in the moment. But I just was you got to keep going. So far, you've made it onto the show, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So.
Now, is there a moment that you had some weight off of your chest when you did notice the chairs turning? Because that is actually a pretty big thing, because either you're on the show or you're not on the show.
Oh yeah, for sure. Once Nick turned around, that was where you could just drop the whole thing at that point. All that weight is just gone because you're on the show at that point. And then for Nick and then John to turn around right after, And then to realize that Nick blocked John, it's like, oh, they like me.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a really validating experience as well.
For sure, that's affirmation right there. When they're using their blocks, to try to grab you, that's a good thing. And then you had Kelly Clarkson saying she's going to steal you too if there's an opportunity. So that's even better.
That was actually John who said it.
That was John. That's correct. That was John. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's up, man.
But that definitely was a very, that felt great as well. I actually initially went in there going after John. But I think, again, all things happen for a reason. So this was definitely the perfect scenario for me.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to ask you that. Was John Legend on your radar as your number one go-to guy if he didn't get blocked? Well, did you have a preconceived, if John turns, that's what I'm going to get? Was that through your head at all?
Yeah, I definitely had John as my first pick.
Yeah.
But once he got blocked, aside from that, I did have him as my first pick. And then also part of me just was like, there's a possibility that he might not be my coach. And I'll have to pick someone else in that moment. And what I decided on the stage was just to go for my gut, whatever my gut said. So I was like, this is what we'll do. And it was my Nick.
And your gut told you to pick Blake Shelton, which I got to be honest with you. I mean, you can't, honestly, let's be real here. You can't go wrong really with any of those judges because they're so talented and they all bring different things to the table. But I got to be honest with you. I think I think I could speak for a lot of people, the Voice fans, that were a little bit surprised you did go with Blake, just because of the, Blake's genre is mainly a country singers, and so when you picked Blake, I was like, wow, this guy's really, he's got an open mind about stuff. I thought it was great. So what was it? Was it Blake's pitch when he was pitching for you? What was it about Blake that made you pick him?
I think part of Blake's pitch was definitely something that, I had to take into consideration. But also considering Blake's past on the show, you can't take everything.
All those wins. Yeah.
And so I definitely, had that in the back of my mind. But I think one of the main things going into it was like, I would be on a team that would definitely stretch me. If you think about it, going into battles or going into different rounds, like I would have to really challenge myself to, try to not necessarily fall into a mold, but also not kind of destroy it, if that makes sense. You wanted to create a good lane on that team. So I think that's my main goal for this process. And then I think also it'll stretch me just being on a country team. It's outside of my normal.
Absolutely. So what was going through your head like the night before the blind audition? I mean, you're somebody who has already a resume in music and in performing. Obviously, you sang in front of the President of the United States and the First Lady. So you come into it maybe a little ahead of the game of some of the other contestants because you had that on your resume. But how nervous were you? I mean, you're still human. So like the night before, how did you sleep? Did you sleep okay? Were you nervous? What was going through your mind the night before the blind?
I actually did sleep pretty well.
Nice.
I think, I want to talk about the contestants for a second as well.
Sure.
And the staff as well, everybody there was just very sweet and very personable. So it made the experience such like a family vibe. So even if I was a little nervous, when I would turn to the other contestants and the staff, everyone would just make you feel so much more comfortable about what you were doing. And we were making sure that, if somebody felt bad about something in their song, we're like, no, you sound amazing. We really hype each other up because we're all here to, number one, touch a specific person. We're not going to reach the same audience. So I think the important part about what we were here to do was to deliver as well as we could for our own thing, because that will reach a different person in ways that I may not be able to reach someone.
Yeah, man.
So I think that entire environment was just, it bred for a great season, and I don't know if you've been keeping up, but there's some amazing talent on this season.
Oh, are you kidding me?
It's amazing to watch.
This is my 10th season interviewing the Voice singers. So I've seen a lot. Been around 5-6 years doing this, and I've interviewed dozens and dozens of contestants, and everybody so far, every The Voice champion has been on my show. So hey, Cam's here, right? Cam's on this show. So the level of talent on this season is really crazy. And I'm guessing that, at the end of the day, it's still a competition. And as you progress, as this competition goes on, I'm guessing that because of the fact that you're surrounded by such amazing talent, it forces you to be on your A game. I mean, because you can go home just like that.
Hmm. Well, I think that the unique thing about the season is that since there is this like family vibe, we kind of purposefully want to just sharpen each other. We're trying to create the best experience for not only ourselves but for the viewers as well. So I think that just going through this, I was working with like Christine Kane. She was on the past episode. I think it was the initial episode, the premiere. And I'm pretty close with her and a few other contestants, but we would just go back and forth, just trying to work on different parts in our songs to make them bigger, see how we could affect change in this way, and then see how it makes you feel that way. And I think just doing that with each other will just, of course, naturally make us better and make the show that much bigger.
That's great,
I think that's our only goal, really. Not even aside from competition, we're just trying to make a dope experience out of this.
Yeah, soak it all up, man, because life goes by fast, and before you know it, you're in your 40s and looking around like, where did my 20s and 30s go? And so really savor your youth and savor this opportunity, man. This is good stuff. All right, last thing I got for you, because I know you're busy. But the second to last thing, I'll give you an opportunity to tell everybody where they can follow you on your social media. But what's some advice that you could share with someone who's out there debating on, there might be somebody who's maybe nervous or somebody who's lacks some confidence to try out for The Voice. So what's some advice you can give somebody who's on the fence, who's thinking about trying out?
Well, I think number one, before you even jump into the industry as a whole, I think it's important that you figure out who you are and who you want to be as an artist. I think one of my biggest struggles growing up in the industry was that I kind of was just placed in a position, and I kind of just like fulfilled a role of Cam Anthony, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so I kind of built, this persona almost around who he should be. And then I look up and I'm, 17 and I'm ready to, really take this thing on as my own. And I can't, because I don't necessarily know who I am and the things I really like and all of that. So I think it can really be a tough situation to have to, rebrand later down the line. And thankfully, the show gives the opportunity for you to showcase yourself in the light that you'd like to be seen. And so I think, if anything, I would like to tell people to make sure that they just have an idea and understanding of who you'd like to be. You won't have it figured out, of course, because it's something that we continue to do for the rest of our lives. We're always changing, but I think it's just important to understand who you are for yourself before the world can tell you.
Not only can you sing, but you're a very intelligent person too.
Thank you.
Yes, I really enjoyed talking to you, Cam. I'd like to get you to come back on the show down the road a piece as the competition progresses. Thanks so much for doing this, and if you would, tell all the listeners out there where they can follow you on your social media, and if you have any websites or anything else you want to talk about before we go.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at The Real Cam Anthony. Facebook is Cam Anthony. You'll find everything else on my website at therealcamanthony.com. And I just wanted to say also thank you for having me. This has been a really great conversation as well.
Well, I'm just absolutely honored to have you on board, and also just I'm really just so blown away by your performance with President Obama and the First Lady. That's some good stuff. That's got to be in your first book if you haven't written a book yet. Thanks, Cam. I appreciate you, buddy.
All right. You have a good one.